This is an experiment. What do billionaires, cultural icons, and world class athletes have in common? I'm about to find out. I'm John Aguilar, serial entrepreneur, former decathlete, and creator and host of the CNN Philippines business reality show The Final Pitch. Each week, I try to unlock the secrets of Asia's world class performers to come up with hacks that I can apply in my own life. My goal is to have you apply them in yours. This is the podcast designed to change your life. This is Methods to Greatness. Methods to Greatness is brought to you by Techno Gym. If you're looking for gear that will help you elevate your home gym experience to the next level, visit technogym.com and we'll hook you up with the best premium home gym equipment and gear available in the market today. Methods to Greatness is also powered by Perfect Health Philippines, a leading provider of innovative and premium massage and healthcare products to customers across Southeast Asia. This partnership is all about improving people's lives, health, and well-being. Visit perfecthealthph.com to know more. Our guest for today is a trusted communications advisor to several elite tech leaders in Silicon Valley and in Asia. She's also founder and CEO of Soulcast Media, a business communications agency where she provides high-touch strategies to elevate people's speaking and authority. She has been awarded an Emmy Award for her work at ABC 10 News and multiple Associated Press Awards. She's also a top LinkedIn learning instructor, where her communications courses have been viewed over 1 million times. After nearly 10 years in television news, Jessica is on a mission to help professionals, entrepreneurs, and executives build their confidence in speaking authentically and to teach the art of developing executive presence in person and on video. Ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy my interview with Jessica Chen. Jessica Chen, good morning, good evening. So good morning from where I am, good evening from where you are.
Good morning, John. Very excited to be here with you.
Jessica, thanks for coming on board the show. I'm very excited to have this conversation with you. I actually stumbled upon your profile on LinkedIn, where you are one of the top LinkedIn learning instructors. And what struck me with your profile is that you are a very successful media practitioner who has transitioned to effectively helping a lot of our tech moguls, I would say, communicate better. And I'd like to, through this conversation, get to know more about you and also what you do for a lot of the tech founders, specifically in Silicon Valley, because that's something that we're really interested in trying to find out exactly what makes a great pitch. So, Jessica, first of all, I'd like to find out about your background, your origins. So, I know previously we talked about you being American Chinese, but born and raised in the US.
That's right. So, well, John, again, thank you so much for having me. And you said it right. So, I am American born Chinese. I was born and raised in California. However, my background is Chinese. And I say that in a way where my first language, despite being born and raised in California, my parents definitely instilled in me that speaking Mandarin was going to be a very valuable skill. So fortunately, I know how to speak Mandarin Chinese. Obviously, here in California, I speak English because a lot of my clients speak English, but I work with a lot of people in Asia as well. Fortunately, because English is a global language too, we can kind of communicate in both depending on what people are most comfortable in. But as you mentioned, John, my background's also in media. That's essentially where I started my career. I started as a broadcast journalist. I moved all around the country, and that's kind of where I started to build this career of really helping people become better communicators. Now, one of my philosophies is I truly think communications and being able to speak well is one of the most important skills in business and in life. Yeah, so my first language was Mandarin Chinese, and fortunately Mandarin and English are two very important language in this global society right now. But as you mentioned, John, my background, I started my career as a broadcast journalist. So that's essentially where I was able to build a lot of the really important communication skills that I now work with founders, entrepreneurs, executives today, because one of my philosophies is communications, I believe, is one of the most important skills, not just in business, but also in life. So that's a lot of the work that we do today.
Yeah. I'm quite interested, Jessica, in your career as a journalist, a broadcast journalist, because I, for a couple of years, was also a news reporter, segment producer for news. And I can really relate to the kind of grind that it takes to I guess, participate as a storyteller in the reporting of facts, right? And in the reporting of people's lives, I would say. What was it about your career as a broadcast journalist that prepared you for what you're doing now? And let's get into your Emmy Award while we're at it, because I'm really quite curious as to find out what it takes to win one, because that truly is such an honor to get an Emmy.
It really, really is. And I think for those in the media field, winning an Emmy is one of those coveted awards that it kind of solidifies the work and the effort that you put in. Now, going to my background as a journalist, so backing up a little bit, I actually did not even study journalism in university. I actually studied international business. So for me, when I decided to become a journalist, I realized I had a very hard, long path to really prove myself in terms of my capabilities. So for me, fortunately, I started out like a lot of young people, it's all about getting that experience in internships. And that fortunately really kind of helped bolster my resume. And I always say, the first job sometimes is the hardest job to get, but once you are in it, it's much easier to rise up from there. So my first job in the US was actually at NBC, and I was working in a small city called Reno, Nevada. It's actually a few hours away from Las Vegas for those who are familiar with that area. And so I started there. Then I moved to New York City. That was probably one of the best experiences, but working in a really huge, fast-paced city. And at the time, I was probably in my early to mid 20s. So that was a really good experience. And then eventually I moved to ABC in San Diego, California. And that was where I won my Emmy Award. And like I said, it's every journalist's dream to win an award like that. And I really felt that award obviously not only showcased working in the media industry, but I think it highlighted a lot of the communications, the presentation skills that I had to also learn to hone to such a degree that it was recognized. So I'm really grateful now because a lot of the things I teach are things that I learned on the job. How do you be a better public speaker? How can you be more convincing? How can you use storytelling just like you imagined? So yeah.
Yeah, Jessica, can we talk about your Emmy? What was it for? What was the story about?
Yeah. So for those who are familiar with California news, you'll know one of the unfortunate things that we do have here in California is we actually get a lot of wildfires.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
I'm
Actually,
very intimate with that because my wife has a brother who, during one of the most recent ones, I think, yeah, I could see his posts, and some people, I think, really had to, well, a lot had to really relocate for a while because of the wildfire. So the story was about that.
Yes, it was about that. And it was one of those situations. So the way wildfires works is obviously there's like high season and low season. So when you hit like high season, for example, right now in the summertime in the US, and because California is very dry, the chances of having a wildfire is actually pretty, I mean, I don't want to say frequent, but you always have to be on alert. Anyways, the story that I ended up covering was there was a huge wildfire that happened in San Diego. And typically, in a situation like that, John, you might be familiar, it's breaking news, right? You're talking about evacuation, safety, what the firefighters are doing. So from a journalist perspective, once this breaking news happens, it's boots to the ground. You're going towards the fire, you're covering it. And I have to say, I mean, it wasn't just my effort, it really was a team effort. We have a group of journalists, producers who are really coordinating all this. And the Emmy Award really was for that I guess the coverage that we did that was, you know, I guess to a point where we did it all really well. We executed it really well. We were able to find the good stories and we were awarded that. So yeah, very proud to have won an award like that. but obviously not for for a situation that I'm, obviously affected a lot of people. So
Yeah, I can just imagine for it to be an Emmy Award-winning piece. Were you actually in the fire? Did it get to that extreme where, there was a raging fire in your background and you were just neck deep in it?
you get pretty close, as people are running away from the disaster, you're running towards the disaster, right? Just like a lot of first responders. So yes, it's very scary, honestly. And I really do give credit to the first responders, truly, like the police officers, the firefighters, who are really at the thick of it. For us, even as journalists, we still, of course, try to be a little bit away from the danger, but we're still around there, right? But yeah, I think being a journalist really does give you a huge appreciation for those people who really have to manage and take care of these types of situations. But yeah.
Right. Jessica, I'm not sure if the video is out there or the story is out there. If it's somewhere out there, we'd love to share it in the show notes. I'd love to see that piece personally.
I haven't seen it in a while, but I'm gonna go look for it actually.
Yes, we'd appreciate it if we could share it to the listeners, to the audience of Methods to Greatness, because I'm personally curious what it takes to win an Emmy. I know that story is amazing, and I really just want to see it as well. So if you could do us the favor of sharing it with us so that we can share it to more people as well. So yeah, love to see that.
We'll keep you posted.
Okay, so Jessica, Soulcast Media is the company that you put together. It is a company that helps executives with their communication skills, with their presentation skills. Now everyone can broadcast from anywhere, and everyone can be his or her own reporter or producer. I guess that's probably where the idea behind Soulcast Media stemmed from, because anyone right now really can be someone like what you were before, right? And I'd like to find out, Jessica, exactly how you came up with Soulcast Media and how you've been instrumental in helping a lot of these executives with their own communications when it comes to broadcasting to their stakeholders.
So one of the reasons why I started Soulcast Media was because I myself was not a naturally confident or even a good communicator, in my opinion. Early on growing up, communications was actually something I struggled with. And that was because I am an introvert and I'm also fairly shy as well. And so when I decided to pursue a career in broadcast TV, you're going from somebody who is fairly shy at talking to suddenly being in front of a camera. That journey to build that confidence isn't easy. And I also talk a lot about in the work that I do at Soulcast Media of linking a lot of the cultural elements for why communications was such a struggle for me. And the reason why that I've identified myself is, in Eastern principles, you're taught things like humility, respect, and these are principles that are absolutely so important, but it doesn't necessarily give you that confidence to advocate for yourself, which is so critical at work or if you're pitching a new idea. So I feel like the work I do now, I can empathize so well with entrepreneurs, executives, business owners who want to talk about themselves, but they're not necessarily comfortable. So for me, my whole philosophy with Soulcast Media is how do you find this balance, right? How can you still advocate for yourself, but not necessarily show off or boast, because nobody really likes that anyways, right? So how do you find this balance? So that's kind of the premise of Soulcast Media, where we teach people how can you speak better, how can you engage with people, how can you really be thoughtful in your approach. Now, when COVID happened, it kind of changed a lot of the work that I do. So I was going from teaching people how to really help with their presentation and public speaking to how do you now talk on camera? How do you talk on camera so that people actually want to listen to you? Because a lot of people, when COVID first happened, they'll get on a Zoom call and their whole body language, they're just so stiff and you can just tell, right? So a lot of the things I teach people now is how do you become a better communicator on video? And of course, there's a lot of that has to go with presentation that links with it. So
Yeah, Jessica, can you give us a few tips? So by now, I think a good communicator definitely has to know how to use the camera, right?
Wow.
Something you're an expert at, with your years of being a journalist. But can you give us a few tips on how to communicate effectively via video conferencing? Because a lot of the meetings now, pitches are being done online. So can you give us a few tips?
Yeah. So, number one is don't undervalue how important it is the way that you carry yourself when you're speaking on camera. A lot of times, especially again with the beginning of COVID, everyone's like, oh, yeah, I get to work from home. I get to wear my pajamas, whatever it is, right? But I still think that here's the thing, impressions are always being made. Even though you've worked with your team for many, many years, trust me, they're still looking like what kind of background's going on, what it is you're wearing. So putting even just that little bit of effort can really help. I also talk about even just simple things like your camera setup, right? You might have seen people get on Zoom calls and the camera looking up their nose, or they are so close to the camera that it's not the most not the most, let's say, comfortable viewing experience for the person on the other side, right? But again, these aren't things that people are necessarily mindful of because all they are thinking about is, what do I want to say, right? But I say little bits of effort on how you carry yourself can make a huge difference. Now, when it comes to communications is what you say, your body language, and your tone. People only think it's usually the first one, but really it's the marriage between these three. So when I communicate, especially on video, because there's a barrier, there's a distance between you and me, I try to make sure that I'm incorporating body language as much as I can. I'm using variety in my voice because that's how you build engagement.
Well, you're a professionally trained communicator, but for someone, let's say who's in tech, who is an engineer, who wants to pitch a startup, right? Who is not used to maybe expressing themselves in front of a camera, what would be like concrete ways that you can use your body, your tone? I know it's easier said than done, but what are maybe some exercises or I guess strategies that you can incorporate into how you can come off better in front of the camera?
hmm So when it comes to presenting your idea, pitching your idea, I say your energy level on camera is so important. And the reason why is because if you cannot show excitement about your own product, about your own service, whatever it is, how can you expect other people to be excited about it, right? So you always have to be mindful of your energy and how you're showing up, which goes into tone of voice, right? A lot of people, when they speak, they kind of speak in this very monotone voice, right? And that's just not very interesting for people to listen to. And that's a fact. So when we talk about variety, right, it's talking about speeding up, slowing down, going high, going low, and choosing which words you want emphasized. And when you get to that word and you hit that word, then you slow down, right? So that's a lot of the work that I do when I work with entrepreneurs is, a lot of times entrepreneurs, they want to start with like a script, right? And that's fine. We can start with the script because that'll allow us to pull out the most important parts. But now, once we've pulled it out, how can you make sure that when you are delivering the message, it's making the biggest impact? Because again, words are important, but how you deliver it honestly is even more important. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think the delivery, the tone, the manner is equally important as the message. In fact, I know of, or I have seen a lot of really good communicators in terms of speaking, not come off well on camera, and you just turn out, you just zone out because, you just don't find it interesting to listen to. But if you look at the content, it's rich in terms of the content, but you just can't find it in yourself to listen to someone who cannot communicate that effectively, right? So, yeah, I think that totally makes sense. And so, Jessica, you are one of the top LinkedIn instructors out there. I'm curious to find out what it takes to be a LinkedIn instructor, because I personally look to LinkedIn for a lot of the contacts that I make, whether it's in business or whether it's in guests for this podcast. I'd like to find out what prompted you to get into LinkedIn, and also what kind of programs you offer to people who access you through LinkedIn.
LinkedIn is one of my favorite social media platforms. And in this day and age, there's so many to choose from, right? And for me, strategically, I chose LinkedIn as my platform because the work that I do, the work that I want to do, are with people who are in the business industry. And where better can you find people than LinkedIn, especially because I feel like the people on LinkedIn, when you engage with them, they are a lot more professional. They're there because they care about their career. They want career advancement, right? So for me, it was really important that, the types of content that I share, which I share a lot of content on LinkedIn. So for those who don't follow me, if you want communication tips, find me on LinkedIn. But for me, I knew that LinkedIn had this audience that I was targeting, right? And that's business. And then from there, what did I do? My expertise is communicating on camera. So for me, I just started posting these videos of me sharing communication tips that I thought could really help people. And LinkedIn saw these videos. They liked my background as a broadcast journalist, and then they invited me to become one of their instructors. And the first course I ever created with them was teaching people how to develop executive presence on camera. And when COVID happened, obviously that interest, people's desire to learn this just basically went straight up. And from there, I've created 5 more courses with them, all communications related. So now I have a total of 6 courses, and I have over 1 million views on these. And I just am very proud to be able to share my skills with people who just want to learn how to be better. That's all I can really say. And I'm just happy that there's this resource now for them.
Yeah, I think LinkedIn as a platform is fantastic. You're right when you said that it's very targeted to in your case, your target audience, your target market. And I do know that you offer also one-on-one consultation specifically for entrepreneurs who are pitching. And this is something I'm really interested in because as an entrepreneur, I would think, I guess across industries, there would be different ways by which you can approach a pitch. If you're, let's say, an entrepreneur who is pitching something that's new, any tips you can share with us, Jessica, on how to effectively pitch from, let's say, the pitch deck to very specifics of how you present your startup to a potential investor?
I love working with entrepreneurs specifically on their pitch deck because these entrepreneurs, first of all, they are so hardworking. They have this brilliant idea and they're already starting to work on this idea. But they always will reach a point where they're like, oh my gosh, I need finances and I need to talk to investors, right? So it's like, how do you fill this gap? And as you mentioned, John, I've worked with a lot of entrepreneurs. I've worked with a lot of entrepreneurs actually who've pitched to Y Combinator. It's probably one of the most popular incubator in Northern California, I would say. And I've worked with a lot of their founders on how they can pitch for their big demo day and all these like events where they really have to showcase themselves. Because what I've noticed is a lot of these entrepreneurs, even though they are so brilliant, they just cannot necessarily express that enthusiasm, that energy that I was talking to you about earlier, to people who they really need to sell this idea to. So yes, I've worked with people who are just raising like a few $100,000 to over $500 million. And obviously at that point, they're already in Series C, Series D, but the nerves are still there. The nerves will never go away. I think when I started working with those kind of in the later seed round investment, obviously their company's a lot more established, but again, there's still new things that they need to talk about. There's still new ideas they need to get investors excited about, right? So when I work with them, and this is probably pretty universal, when I work with people on their pitch deck, I always really focus on the first 5 minutes of their pitch deck. And the first 5 minutes is because that is where you have to capture their attention early on. If you cannot capture their attention early on, you lose them. It's much harder to gain it back in the middle of your pitch. So we talk about things of like, what's the most interesting part of your company? Start with that. And not only starting with that, how can you say it so that they're like, wow, that's impressive, right? Obviously, this looks different for different companies depending on what it is that they're pitching. But I would say every entrepreneur needs to focus on the first few minutes of their pitch deck, pulling out the most amazing, impressive parts and start with that. So, yeah.
Yeah, the most impressive part. So, how can you assess exactly what will work with your audience in terms of storytelling, right? If you're not a naturally gifted storyteller or communicator, how would you be able to dissect looking at your pitch and trying to see, okay, how can I effectively communicate the best part of my company or my solution or my pitch?
I'll give an example. So right now I'm actually working with an entrepreneur right now, and she's creating her pitch deck to share with investors, right? And her struggle, and perhaps this is a struggle with a lot of entrepreneurs, the way she would talk about herself and her company, it would just read like a resume. I did this, I went here, I did that. Nothing about that is very inspiring. Impressive, but it's not very inspiring, right? So when I started working with her, we had to really talk about how everything kind of connects. And that's really the storytelling part of it. How did you get from A to B to C? And where do you fit into this picture, right? So for her, like I talked about, the first few minutes are the most important. I had her introduce herself, I had her introduce her company. But what was most impressive about it is that she has had successful companies in the past, one of which is valued at $500 million. That is impressive. But what did she do? She buried the lead. You might appreciate that term, John. She should have started with that. This is how she can have built her credibility. She talks about who she is and how she's built already a successful company because it's already valued at $500 million, right? So for her, we didn't really change her background. You can't really change someone's background, but you can change how you tell it. So that's the most important part.
It's really a matter of highlighting, I guess, the most hook-worthy parts or elements of your life story, I would think, or your professional or business or career story. I think once you get that hook, you're automatically, okay, I'm interested in this person because this person's been successful in the past, and I'm curious to find out what this new thing it is that you're coming up with, right? So I think that's a good way for someone who's been successful in the past. What if, Jessica, you are on your first startup, right? Mm-hmm. You do not have or have very little success from, maybe you just graduated from school, and a lot of these startups are quite young. What if you have a brilliant idea? What if you have a startup that has potential, but for all intents and purposes, you have not had previous successes? How do you now, I guess, capture the other person's attention given that you have a really great idea, a great product that you're working on?
Mm-hmm. So that's a really good question. And the answer to that question is, if you don't have a track record to show for it, what really is going to sell is how passionate you are about this idea. Because early on, in any company, right, especially if it's just an idea, there's not much backing or necessarily validating this yet, what investors are investing in is you as a person, right? Obviously, the idea has to sound pretty good, but in the end, they're investing in what they see in you, your passion, your drive, your enthusiasm, because they want to know that when things go bad, are you going to get out of bed the next day and still work on it, right? So I think early on, whether it's somebody who's a teenager or somebody who's in their mid-20s who wants to start their own idea and they're starting to work on it, but when they start talking about it, it's really about showcasing that passion that'll get people to, again, get excited with you. That's the most important.
One of the biggest trends in fitness right now is the proliferation of home gyms. And we've partnered with Italian wellness solutions provider Technogym to give you your weekly dose of high-tech fitness equipment and exercises that you can consider for your home. Joining me is Technogym Philippines Sales Director Marvin Navarro.
Okay, John, so this is the MyRun. This is the Techno Gym treadmill specifically designed for the home. It's very compact. Even though it has a very small footprint, the running surface to body ratio is very, very good. One of the best in the market. But what sets this apart to normal treadmills is this actually helps you become a better runner through a dedicated application. You have the normal slew of exercises, goal training, workout, fat loss, so what you find in normal treadmills. But what we have here is actually a program that will help you become a better runner. So let's say you want to be able to run a half marathon. Then it will ask you right now, what is the distance that you can cover right now? So let's say right now I can do 5 kilometers. And how long can you run that 5 kilometers? Let's say I'm relatively a beginner and I can do it in around 40 minutes. How many times you want to train a week? I'm dedicated. I'll train 4 times a week. And there you can see it will already give you your training protocol, a schedule that you can follow all throughout the week. Once you assign this, it will then sync to your calendar so that you will never miss a workout. So you can see this treadmill can actually detect your cadence, your step or stride length, and also your displacement, how much you're bouncing up and down. With this, you can actually fine-tune your running technique to become better and more efficient at running. Another feature is run with your music, wherein if you have songs loaded into your tablet computer, it actually picks the songs with the same beat of your pace.
Nice.
So this is the dedicated Techno Gym application for MyRun. But if you are using any of the popular third-party applications, you can actually use it and sync it with this treadmill as well. Zwift has connected with the MyRun, and then now you can use it with the application. You can start a run, and then there you go.
Aside from giving you the usual speed, distance, time, it actually gives you your stride length, so you can calculate exactly how much or how long your stride should be. It gives you your displacement, so as much as possible you don't bounce. And this, I find, is something that's very unique, and first time I've ever gotten to experience this. It's like having a coach by your side telling you exactly how you should run. So as a runner myself, I think this is invaluable feedback. I'm very, very surprised we already have the technology for this right now. This episode is also brought to you by Perfect Health Philippines. Did you know that massages are considered one of the best ways to recover from exercise and is considered an indispensable part of any fitness training and recovery regimen? Getting a regular massage not only detoxifies your muscles from lactic acid buildup, but also increases muscle performance, blood flow, reduces pain, and induces better sleep. If you don't have access to a masseuse, the next best thing is a massage chair or a massage gun. Perfect Health has a complete lineup of massage chairs with a whole range of features and price points. Their top-of-the-line model, Perfection 2, has all the bells and whistles. From 3D full body and foot massage functions, voice command, Bluetooth, and zero gravity. Their Perfect Relaxer massage gun is a personal favorite of mine, which I use on my quads every time I come from a long bike ride. Methods to Greatness, in partnership with Perfect Health Philippines, has come up with a special discount promo that is exclusive to our followers and subscribers. To avail of the special promo discount, get in touch with Perfect Health's professional healthcare consultants at perfecthealthphcustomerservice@gmail.com or via hotline 02-8831-6944 and give the promo code MTG. That's the Methods to Greatness promo code MTG, and the healthcare consultants will hook you up with the best premium massage chairs, massage guns, and other healthcare products, all with a special discount. Jessica, I want to, and I'd like to fast forward a bit. So let's imagine a world where most people have been vaccinated. We've moved on, and we're back to face-to-face meetings and pitches. What would be, I guess, your top ways or advice for people who would like to communicate their message effectively, whether this is in a press conference or a one-on-one meeting or or maybe even presenting to your staff or your people, would you have advice that you can give for people to be able to communicate better?
Yeah. So, one of the most important things about how anybody can be a very good communicator is really thinking about other people first. And I know that isn't necessarily a skill, a tactical skill, but I truly feel that the most powerful communicators are very mindful of the people in the audience. What is it that they care about? And speaking to them and being as helpful as they can be. Because one of the things that can instantly turn people off in any situation is when you just kind of continue to talk about yourself and it just seems very self-serving. But if you can be of service to those who you're speaking with, whether it's your team, just one person or a group of people, if they can see how valuable you are, your value add, suddenly in their eyes, they're going to think, wow, Jessica or John, they're really able to contribute, right? So I think it's always being mindful of your audience, making sure that you know, think about what they care about. And this is where preparation really, honestly, is really important, right? As you're preparing, your next 5 o'clock or, 3 o'clock meeting, right? Think about, okay, who's in this meeting? What are we trying to accomplish here? What do I need to bring to the table? And then how can I communicate this so that it resonates with people?
That's perfect. So it's not about you, right?
No.
You are saying something. You have an agenda, but really, at the end of the day, your agenda is how you can help the other person or the ones that you're having that conversation with. I think that's my takeaway from that. Makes sense. Makes so much sense, Jessica, and I can see why you've been very successful, because that's probably the same mantra that you have had, whether it's your viewers in the news or the executives that you serve with your sessions and with your courses on LinkedIn. So yeah, I have, Jessica, now my standard questions that I ask my guests.
Okay.
I'd like to first of all backtrack a bit to what makes you Asian. I know you were born and raised in the US, but earlier, off cam, we were talking about your background. So I'd like to find out, Jessica, what makes you Asian, or specifically, what makes you Chinese or Chinese American?
It's always a really funny question because I think I don't think so much about it because I already feel that my natural way of thinking is naturally very Asian. And what do I mean by that? I think just in general, the way I think is, again, leaning more towards Asian, Eastern principles than Western. But because we live in a Western, well, live in a Western society, you really have to adapt and kind of challenge yourself. So, going back to talking about things like humility and respect, I think for me, because I find those things extremely important, it makes me naturally sometimes would want to be more timid, right? Because I feel like that's how it's better to not, rock the boat, don't bother people, don't want to disturb, or, harmony, for example, is a really big one. But because I live in a Western society, I always have to remind myself that, wait a second, no, advocating, communicating, expressing myself is actually also quite important. So I think, to answer your question, I think my beliefs and my the way I think is already very Eastern because that's just what I was taught growing up. So yeah.
Yeah, it's funny how you said earlier that your father actually encouraged you to speak Mandarin because it's going to be a very important language one of these days globally, and he's a wise man. I for one, if I had a choice, I would have also learned, apart from English and Tagalog, which is my native language, Mandarin, because yeah, truly, it is a very, very important language to learn, given now how China has become what it is today. And I'd like to find out from you, being Asian American or being Chinese American, what is it about, because we know about the US, right? But what is it about China that you would like for people to know, for those who would like to understand China better?
there's a reason why people are saying that this is truly the next superpower country. The rate of growth, the rate and speed, honestly, of the type of innovation, production that's coming out of there is truly unprecedented. And I think as technology grows, and the thing is, it's because countries like China, one of their biggest asset is they have just a lot of people. They have that manpower to really get things going. And I do feel, and perhaps I'm biased, but I do think, and this is a huge generalization, but I do feel like, Chinese people, they're very efficient. They want to get things done. They work fast. They want to accomplish things. And I feel like that speed in which they work truly can be a huge asset, combining it with obviously, making sure that everything is, right and accurate, to avoid mistakes. But I really think China, Asia, honestly, in general, Asia, right? Speaking of Asia, is really kind of where people need to open their eyes to. But I think what really will make people, anybody professionally, the most valuable is having that understanding of both East and West, because I do think both understanding is super powerful. I can't even underestimate that. So East and West together, if you have that understanding, is a huge asset.
It's a perfect combination. And
It is.
Jessica, I'd like to find out, who to you is a modern day superhero, or who is your modern day superhero?
I remember, okay, so when I saw this question, I actually kind of chuckled because, to be honest, I don't know if it's any one person who I feel is a superhero. I truly feel that sometimes it's the people who are the most, you know, subdued, the one that kind of go under the radar, that are sometimes the superheroes, right? It's not always the people who have the glitz and glam that are the superheroes. And, I'll even go and say that, the people who are juggling so many things at once, the moms and dads who have work, family, life, you know, if you're juggling a lot of things and and even though you may feel that you're not balancing any of these things, the fact that you can get up every single day, have a good attitude, go out into the world and try your best. Honestly, I feel like people like that are superheroes, because I feel like this world sometimes it can be so competitive. It can also be very tough. But if you have a good attitude, I think you're a superhero. That's truly my perspective.
Yeah, sometimes I guess, there's a lot to be said about extroverts. A lot of them lead companies and all that. But sometimes it's the introverts, those who are under the radar, really, who accomplish great things, because, quite frankly, they don't find the need to talk about it, and they're just busy, just getting things done.
Yeah, yeah. People who just get things done. Honestly, you're a superhero. You just get things done. You don't try to, be super loud or about it. You just, again, you get things done. That's a superpower sometimes too. Honestly.
Methods to Greatness, in partnership with Perfect Health Philippines, will be giving away premium healthcare products to our loyal listeners and subscribers. Starting January 31, 2022, there will be weekly winners of Perfect Relaxer massage guns worth 9,900 pesos. And at the end of 12 weeks, we will give one lucky subscriber a chance to take home a fully loaded Perfect Health Trinity massage chair worth 200,000 pesos. All you have to do is subscribe to the Methods to Greatness podcast and follow us on our social media accounts on Facebook and LinkedIn, and share the post linked in the show notes of this episode on your feed. And if you know someone who you feel would benefit from our conversations and content on the show, tag them for more chances to win our prizes. We always want you, our listeners, to aspire to improve yourselves in every aspect of your lives, so you can be the best you can possibly be. Check out the Methods to Greatness social media channels for more details. Jessica, I don't know if you have, but if you would be given the privilege of giving a commencement speech, particularly now, there are a lot of students who are coming into the world in such a world where there's a lot of uncertainty, who are coming into the workforce with all of the challenges that we have now. So what would be your advice to those students now, particularly in this world that we live in?
Well, I think back to even when I was graduating university? What was something that I wish that I had tackled earlier on? Now, for me, and maybe this is because I'm just a little biased, but I would say learn how to be a very good communicator. The earlier you learn how to do this, the more easy it'll be for you to fast track your career, get noticed, communicate your thoughts. Again, I might be a little bit biased, but I will say there is a difference between communicating with your friends and family and communicating with those at work and in business. It's different. And the reason why is because when you're with your family and friends, you can be a little bit more relaxed. You can just be a little bit more, yes, what you're comfortable with. But once you go out into the working world, right? Because those who are graduating, I feel like a lot of them don't have that, you know, tact of how do you communicate with people who you don't know, who you're not familiar with, but it's still quite important. So I would say investing in learning how to be a better communicator. If you can do that when you are young, I truly think that this is really what differentiates people, people who stay stagnant versus those who rise up more quickly.
Jessica, any special routines or preparation that you do before you, let's say, get in front of the camera or get in front of people? Is there something that you can share with us in terms of how you prepare to engage your audience?
Well, I will say I do not underestimate the power of preparation. Even people like me who do a lot of presentations, who talk a lot for work, um, don't underestimate practicing out loud. There's a difference between practicing just in your mind when you're reading something, but it feels completely different and it will sound completely different when you say it out loud. So I will say, before you go into any situation, especially if it's a meeting, practicing what you want to say out loud also gets you comfortable with hearing your own voice, because sometimes we don't really hear our voice in the more business sense. Yes, we hear ourselves when we talk with friends and family, but when you're trying to develop that executive presence, it does sound different. So talk out loud when you practice is probably my biggest tip.
Would you recommend actually recording yourself talking to the camera?
Yes and no. And the reason why is because when people record themselves on camera, sometimes they just focus so much on, oh, why am I doing this? Oh, why am I doing that? Which also, it could be a good thing because you never notice this about yourself. But I will say, practice out loud. Yes, recording can be a great asset if you have the time. But just make sure that you're not just watching it, that you're actually implementing things that you can improve on. So, yes, recording can be a really good thing too.
Jessica, what is the one thing that you wish you could have learned sooner?
Communications, honestly. Like, I mean, I feel like it has changed my life in terms of once I learned how to be a better communicator, I suddenly felt more confident too. And I think the reason why a lot of people don't feel confident communicating is because they just, first of all, they don't know what to do, what to say, how to say it. So all these things just fill their mind. I call it mental chatter. But when you have clarity, when you know what you want to say, when you know how you want to say it, and you can approach every environment strategically, there's nothing to be afraid of anymore. And no one has ever said that communications can really solve this, but I really think communications and understanding how to be a good communicator can really change how people feel about themselves too.
Okay, and Jessica, for my final question, uh, for all my guests on the show, I try to do at least one thing, or at least I try to ask for a recommendation of just this one thing that I can try in my own life. Is there anything that you would maybe like to give as a challenge or advice, something that I could try, whether it's in my life, my career, my way of communicating, anything?
Well, since we're on the train of communications right now, since that's kind of like our theme of the day, um, I would essentially just challenge you to think about how to even improve even more. And I will use myself as an example. I do not feel like I have mastered communications in any way myself either. I feel that there is still so much to learn because the environments are different, people are different, situations, context, circumstances are always different, right? So I'm always asking myself, how can I be more socially aware of situations? What kind of habits can I change myself so that I can be a better person when I'm engaging with other people? So I think it's developing even more acute social and self-awareness. That's probably one of the best places to start. And I'm also doing it too. So we can be in this challenge together, John.
You know, that's such a powerful, yet I'm trying to wrap my head around how I can improve. You know, I'm struggling right now, Jessica, with trying to come up with a way that I can assess myself and how I can improve on my communication style.
Okay, 2 tips. The first one is be a better active listener. So when you're interacting with people, don't just quickly think of what can I say next, right? Or what's my response? So truly just listen to what the other person is saying. And that also requires you to kind of calm yourself down, because I think a lot of us tend to react versus respond. There's a difference, reacting versus responding. People just react to situations. So being an active listener and catching yourself is probably the first thing. The second tip is simply asking people, how did that make you feel when this happened? How did that make you feel when I said this? And it's just you even asking that question to somebody else will completely surprise them, because they don't expect you to care so much about how you made them feel. But the fact that you're asking this, I'm just curious, last Friday when we had this conversation about A, B, and C, how did that whole interaction make you feel? And then from there, you'd be surprised at what some people will tell you, because what you've done is you've now opened the door to really, I don't want to say deep, but really like substantial types of conversations. And then you'll be able to know how you can improve on yourself.
Wow, I've never thought of asking that question. To be honest, usually, let's say it's a business meeting. It would be, I would even say, transactional in that way. Especially now, you were not face to face, but you're right. Asking someone how you made them feel with what you said, I think it can lead the conversation to other places as well. Deeper, I would think also, and in terms of the insight that you can get, I think it fosters deeper insight into even the next conversation that you'll have. Yeah, thank you, Jessica, for that.
Yeah, and here's the thing: you don't need to do it with everybody, obviously, but the people who you feel a connection to, who you feel, this trust with, those are the type of people who you can ask, and then you can kind of just go from there. So, yeah.
Wow, that's great. Well, Jessica, thank you for this very enlightening conversation. I really enjoyed talking to you. This is the first time that we've met. I've only reached out to you on LinkedIn. But for those people who would like to get to know more about you, what you do, please invite our listeners, our viewers, where they can find you and where they can gain access to a lot of the great stuff that you come out with, not just on LinkedIn, but through your company, Soulcast Media.
Yes. So my company, you can find me on our website, which is www.soulcastmedia.com. I have a lot of communication content that I also put on there, and also what people can find in terms of how we can work together. I have all of it listed. But like you mentioned, LinkedIn is where I'm most active. I post almost every single day communications content that's really meant to help other people. But I'm also on Facebook and Instagram, a little less, but you'll still see that I post quite often on channels like Instagram. So follow me there. And every page is literally my first and last name, Jessica Chen page. So just those 3 words, and you can find me on these social media platforms. So make sure to add me, and I look forward to connecting with everybody.
It's been great having you on the show. Thank you very much for guesting on Methods to Greatness, Jessica Chen.
Thank you, John.
This episode is brought to you by Technogym. We've partnered with Technogym for equipment recommendations for your home gym. So if you're looking for gear that will help you elevate your home gym experience to the next level, just go to technogym.com and type the Methods to Greatness promo code MTG. That's MTG. And we'll hook you up with the best premium home gym equipment in the market today. Methods to Greatness is also brought to you by Perfect Health Philippines, a leading provider of innovative first-class massage and healthcare products across Southeast Asia. If you would like me to interview anyone on the face of the earth and want them on the podcast, or if you want to collaborate with us for future content or sponsorship opportunities, or if you just have any recommendations on how we can get better, just send us an email at john@methodstogreatness.com. That's john@methodstogreatness.com. Until then, we'll see you next time.